Hello, welcome to the European Open Briefing for Tuesday, December the 12th. I'm Rafi Bajan, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be having a look at the latest developments in the currency markets today. We are seeing a bit of a subdued start to the trading day. All major pairs are fairly steady as all eyes are on central bank meetings. We've got the Fed announcement coming tomorrow where they will publish their latest quarterly projections. So we're not seeing any big moves in the US dollar until then. The euro and pound are also fairly steady. We've got the ECB and Bank of England policy meetings coming up on Thursday. The biggest gainers this morning are the Australian and New Zealand dollars, and oil prices have gotten quite a big boost after a major North Sea pipeline was shut down due to some cracks appearing in the pipeline. So that's boosted Brent crude especially, which is at 2.5-year highs. But let's start with the dollar. We can see both dollar yen and dollar index are holding fairly close to those highs we saw on Friday following the jobs report when dollar yen rose to 4-week high and dollar index hit a 2-week high. This week, we've got a lot of US data as well as the FOMC meeting. The Fed begins this 2-day meeting today, and although we know that they will most likely raise interest rates by 0.25 percentage points, what's going to be more important is their quarterly projections, and especially now that we've got the tax cuts coming very close to being approved by Congress. It's going to be important to see whether or not that's going to influence their decisions and whether or not they're going to project a faster rate of pace increases than their previous forecasts. The last projections forecasted 3 rate hikes in 2018. If that moves up to 4 rate hikes in 2018, that could be very positive for the dollar. On the other hand, if some members continue to stay very worried about the low inflation rate, that could be very dovish for the dollar. Also, to keep an eye out is we've got producer prices out of the US coming up later today, inflation numbers tomorrow, and retail sales on Thursday, all of which will be potentially important for the US dollar. Moving now on to the European currencies, we can see the euro yesterday attempted to break above the 1.18 handle, but it did meet resistance at around $1.1810, and then that led to decline to around 1.1775. We've got the ECB meeting coming up on Thursday. We already had that big announcement in October, so we're not expecting to see any changes this month, although the ECB staff will publish their latest economic projections, and that we could see perhaps an upward revision to growth, though it's unclear what. Although the inflation picture remains subdued still, and if the ECB signals that they don't expect core inflation to pick up anytime soon, that could be negative for the euro, even if we do see an upward revision to economic growth. Later today, we've got the German ZEW economic sentiment index coming up, so that's going to be important for the euro. And the pound, we can see it has steadied around 1.3350, retreating from those highs on Friday. Following the announcement of the Brexit divorce deal, so that the initial boost has subsided. We are seeing some renewed concerns about what kind of Brexit deal the UK will get with the EU. So a bit of reality check there for the pound. We've got the Bank of England coming up on Thursday. They're not expected to announce any changes either, and we're likely to see a unanimous vote for rates to stay unchanged. Although if you do see any surprises in the tone of the statement, that could potentially lead to some moves in sterling. Also, we've got a number of UK data releases this week. Inflation numbers are out later today, unemployment numbers tomorrow, and retail sales on Thursday. And today's biggest movers, let's move on to the Australian and New Zealand dollars. We can see both currencies are up fairly strongly against the US dollar. The Aussie up 0.4% and the kiwi up 0.6%. The kiwi was already boosted more than 1% yesterday following the appointment of Adrian Orr as the new governor of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. He previously used to serve as deputy governor and is has a career in the financial services sector, so he was seen as a safe pair of hands. But many traders were concerned about who the new Labour-led government would appoint, because the new government wants to see some reforms to the RBNZ. So the fact that they've appointed someone who's unlikely to go for something more radical in terms of the RBNZ's policy targets, that has pleased the markets. So most likely what we're going to see from the RBNZ is just the addition of a dual mandate, where they will target employment as well, which it's unlikely to lead to really too much of a major shift in RBNZ policy. So that's why we're seeing the kiwi being boosted, as it removes a huge layer of uncertainty in the markets regarding the RBNZ's future. And with regards to the Aussie, we did have some Chinese lending figures out earlier today. We saw lending in China rise by 13.3% year on year. That was above expectations, and that means that that would potentially be a boost to Chinese businesses, and therefore economic growth there. And of course, given that China is a major trading partner of Australia, the Aussie is always sensitive to Chinese data, and that data has offset a disappointing batch of data out of Australia. We saw home prices in the country fall by 0.2% in the third quarter versus expectations of a growth of 0.5%. And the NAB Business Confidence Index, after rising strongly to 21 in October, it has slipped back to 12 in November. Despite that, the Aussie has risen above 0.7550 this morning. And finally, looking at oil prices, we can see both Brent crude and WTI are up sharply, though Brent crude is up much more strongly. In fact, it hit a 2.5-year high of $65.70 a barrel a short while ago. The Forties pipeline in the North Sea has been shut, and that's cut off supply of around 450,000 barrels per day. So that is boosting the international benchmark Brent. The US benchmark WTI isn't seeing as much of a boost. We could potentially see further signs of increases in US production this week from the two oil inventories reports that are expected this week, the API report due later today, and the official government EIA report out tomorrow. And finally, looking at today's economic calendar, we can see it's going to be a very busy day in terms of economic data. We've got UK inflation numbers coming up shortly, the Germans' economic sentiment as well out shortly as well. In the US session, we're going to see the US producer prices, and we can see the Japanese, Australian and Chinese data released already. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.